Thank you, George. Can you hear me as well? Okay, good. What I'd like to do today is try and give you one or two things you can take back to your organization that will help you for 2011. And we're going to talk a bit about aligning sales comp and your comp plans. So I'd like to give you maybe the top 5 sales compensation challenges that will impact your business in 2011. From there, I'd like to talk a little bit about how to align your sales comp plan to the business goals and the sales strategy. And finally, what are the right measures? People are struggling these days, partly because, there we go, of these issues. Changes in sales strategy, as George mentioned. Organizations over the last 18 months have gone through a tremendous amount of change, and sales compensation is one of those things that sort of comes along after the changes have taken place, but it gets rushed towards the end of the year in preparation for next year. There's a lot of complexity that needs to be dealt with in terms of what you want salespeople to do for improving their execution. Target setting is a huge issue these days. Tracking and performance management. How do we know whether salespeople are really getting the productivity out of them? What do we use? What are the tools that we use to track and assess performance? And finally, transparency and communication. Getting salespeople to understand our plan and what we want out of them, and doing that in a way that's very clear and they can identify whether or not they're performing. Okay, in the last 2 years, 80% of organizations, and this is research that was done across North America, 80% of organizations have either changed strategy, restructured, introduced a change to the process that they use to sell, or have consolidated their sales force. So that instead of having 5 sales forces, each selling a line of business, they're now selling, they have a sales force that's selling all products across all industries. The difficulty is, if you've changed the strategy and you've changed the structure and the roles and what people are accountable for, but you haven't changed their comp plan, you're probably reinforcing old paradigms. So the kind of behavior, you know the adage, you get what you pay for. If I want people to do more new business than account management, I need to make sure that the comp plan's aligned with that. So that 80% of their incentive should be tied into new business, 20% into account management, or vice versa. The sales comp plan is your tool to tell your sales force what you value and want to pay them for, and secondly, where to focus their time and effort. If it does those two things well, it'll generally be a fairly successful sales comp plan. So if you don't take anything away from this, these are the 2 things that you need to ask yourself when you put the plan in place for 2011. Complexity. We're seeing a lot of organizations where they have multiple measures. It's sort of like going to Vegas and putting chips on all of the spots for the roulette wheel. You never win big, you never lose big, but the house always takes its cut, so you never really achieve what your potential is. So 3 to 4 measures maximum. You'd only use 3 to 4 measures if you have 30 to 40% of their total income at risk. If you're in the 20 to 25%, 2 to 3. Probably 2. Management will always try and get you to achieve a variety of goals, but getting 2 things done really, really well will benefit you much better than having a salesperson trying to do 5 or 6 things really well. Make sure the wording in your plan is very precise about what you want them to do and how you want them to do it. What kinds of accounts do you want them going after? Pay more if you're looking for an account that's $5,000 or more. Pay more for those accounts, because that communicates where to focus. If you don't do that, you'll have your salespeople going off all different directions trying to, very well-meaning, achieve goals, and you won't get the focused behavior that you're after. The other thing is, be careful that you don't put so many qualifiers and conditions and hooks into your plans that demotivate salespeople, because they're always trying to meet multiple objectives as opposed to really being focused on the key things that you want them to deliver. Target setting. With all the volatility and restructuring, it's hard to look at the last couple of years and project what the target should be for next year. Especially if you've restructured your sales force or you've introduced new products and services, you want to make sure that you have greater consistency in performance. I have one organization where their plan, if the person, they've restructured all of their accounts, but if they're more than 5% off plan, they get like 20 or 30% of their target sales. And salespeople are very demotivated because they're not really good at target setting. The rapidly changing markets have also made it difficult to set annual targets. So if you've been doing your business planning for next year, how accurate can you be for December 2011? So what we're recommending is, rather than, leaving people hung out to dry, set your target for 2011, but commit to the first couple of quarters. And do a review at mid-year, and put in your plan something that says at mid-year we will review and we reserve the right to either lower or raise targets by up to 15%, depending on how the sales force is doing. So that you buy yourself, and you have to do it up front. If you do it at mid-year, they'll think you're trying to, scam them somehow. There we go. Tracking's a big issue. Multiple feeds. A lot of organizations, because of the change, their systems aren't exactly aligned properly yet. They have remote sales forces, a lot of manual manipulation. Errors. When salespeople think there's errors in one sale, they question everything. They spend a lot of time doing shadow accounting. More organizations are moving towards developing technologies or working with technologies that help them minimize those. As I said, it's a management tool. You want the people selling, not trying to determine whether or not you've comped them properly. You want to be able to resolve disputes. Communication is a huge issue, huge. It's something that you need to take very seriously. This is a slide that we use with executives. What I want you to recognize here is that comp is not an input. Okay, people think we get the right comp plan, we'll get the right results. Comp is an output of the alignment of all of the activities that are involved here: strategy, tactical execution, structure, performance. If you don't get that alignment, you're not going to get good sales execution. So what are the right measures? Well, the devil's in the data. What kinds of information can you capture? And the key here is you need to be able to track accurately and consistently. So make sure that you look at both the quantitative and the qualitative aspects. So if I'm looking at solution selling, it's not enough that they go out there and try and put together creative solutions. Process and the way in which they deliver those solutions is critical. So somehow you have to be able to either track with your CRM system or some performance-based system in terms of account reviews. And that's the next point there that says you get what you inspect. So do account reviews on a regular basis in 2011. Make sure that you have people who are who understand that they're going to have to present to you what they're doing as well as who they're doing it with. If you can, everybody's moving these days away from revenue towards margin. Make sure that you can measure it accurately. So what are the criteria? Accuracy, consistency, it contributes towards your business goal, and it's measurable. It's got to be measurable. If you can't defend it to your salespeople, don't use it as a measure. To differentiate yourself, be different. Okay, don't just follow the pack. If the industry's doing something, be creative. Find ways to creatively comp your people. It will attract the better people. And finally, what do we do for 2011? Starting point, research and analysis. Make sure you research what you have done up till the end of the year and analyze it in terms of what you're trying to do for next year. Don't just sit in a room and try and put together the right commission rates. It's like throwing a dart at a dartboard. Make sure you get all of the stakeholder perspectives. Do have some sort of a system that you're going to use, whether it's Excel-based or it's some other type of system. Use something to track, monitor, and give feedback to your salespeople. If you're not giving them feedback on performance, you can't expect them to improve. The target setting process. Be open. Let people know this is how I've never had a salesperson that liked their target, but if they understand how it was done, they will be more accepting in terms of what your expectations are of them. And finally, communication. Feedback, mentoring, coaching, all of this stuff is all part of looking at sales performance and ensuring that your comp plan delivers the right kind of behavior.